Hi, I'm Dana, and today I want to talk about some more of the things that I did as an undiagnosed autistic kid, because I have a lot, and every time I see someone else talk about this online anywhere, I'm like, oh my god. But I also have some that I don't think I haven't seen other people talk about it. I'd like to know if it's the kind of thing that other people did as well. So let's just get straight into it. No, before we actually start, I need to do a little disclaimer, which is that we're all different. We're all different people. Even autistic people are still different people. So if we didn't do the same things, that's completely fine. It doesn't make either of us any less autistic. It doesn't mean either of us are faking anything. It just means we're different people, and that's okay. I would in fact love to hear about what you did as well. If you comment it in the comments, I'm sure there'll be a discussion and you'll find other people that did the same thing. It can be a good time. So the first one's one that I feel like I have spoken about before, but I want to bring it up again because no one's ever told me they did it too, which is I had a really lengthy phase as like quite a young child, like probably, I want to say before the age of 8, like a young child. And I don't entirely remember how it started. I think I'd spilt some water and I was trying to mop it up. And you know how toilet paper goes all like claggy and like clay-like? I was like, whoa, okay. So then I had like months and months, like this was an ongoing thing where I would get into bed at night and I'd have my little movie on that I was allowed to watch when I was like meant to be falling asleep. I'd get my toilet paper, my water bottle, and start making little bowls out of toilet paper. And like every night I'd add to them and try and make the sides higher because like you've got to let it dry a little bit so you can add on to it. And, like these would be like ongoing projects for me. I would get really into doing it like every single night. And then eventually my mum would go into my room to change my bed and she'd be like, what the fuck is this? And I'd be like, it's my bowl. And she'd be like, no, we're not doing that. What a waste of toilet paper. What are you doing? Go to sleep. But yeah, I loved doing that. That was like my first like arts and crafts late at night experience, I think. Alright, it's the type of thing that looking back, like, I think my mum saw it as like, we let you paint, we let you do arts and crafts, you always have access to crayons and shit, like just do some of that. And it was very much like a sensory seeking experience. Like to this day, I really enjoy doing stuff with clay and doing things like that because it's very sensory. You get to squidge it and shape it, and then at the end of it you also have like the finished thing of like, I made this. And obviously I feel that a little bit more with actual clay versus my little toilet paper bowls. But I also had like a really big obsession with ancient Egypt, and it felt very like I was like connecting through like time with human nature of like, yeah, we all just make fucking bowls, don't we? That's what we do. That's what humanity is. We make fucking bowls, and in like 3,000 years they'll find my bowl. And obviously, no, they're not. They're not going to find your toilet paper bowl, honey. But that was my brain. I was very young, and that was what I liked to do. And even though it's like not the most autistic thing in the world, I do think that it very much stems from like autistic traits, you know? The next one does have more of an autistic vibe to me, because I remember, again, this was before I was in year 3, which is when you're 7 to 8 years old, I think. So I would have been like pre-7 years old, and I'd fallen over in the playground. And as always in the UK, you get your bit of blue paper that you put on your knee. And when I took it off, the teacher was like, oh, okay, we need to get the tweezers, there's a stone stuck in your knee. And I was like, what the fuck? Like terrified, scared shit out of me. I'd never experienced anything like it before as a kid, you know? So she went off and got the tweezers and pulled the rock out my knee, and it was one of the things where like, as soon as she did it, I was like, oh, it's better actually, thanks for that. But like in the lead up to her doing it, I was petrified. So I was like, how do I make sure this never happens to me again? Like, what the hell? And she was very like, oh, well, we'd have to get all of the little rocks off the playground, wouldn't we? And you can see where that's going. So I had this little pink bag from Claire's that had like little embroidered mirrors on it, you know, where there's like a little embroidered bit around a circular mirror in different colours. Like I really vividly remember that fucking bag because I took it to school with me, and every single day, like, because I didn't have friends, I didn't have people to play with anyway, I started at one corner of the playground, I got down on my hands and knees, and it's that kind of like concrete asphalt that has like little tiny stones built into it, but as it wears down those stones come loose, and just any loose stone I would pick up and put into my bag. And I did it for long enough. I filled up over half the bag. Like it was probably about this big, and I filled up over half of it. It was just this fuck off big bag of rocks, you know? But like they were the tiniest little stones. They're like the tiny ones that get stuck in the shed of your shoe. And I just spent every lunch and break time on my hands and knees picking up these rocks and putting them in my bag, because I was like, eventually I'll have a covered playground and then no one's going to get a rock stuck in their knee ever again, including me. And it's the type of thing that I think, to a point, I think that is just sort of like a childish thing to think, you know? But there is also the point to which like I was convinced I was going to do it, you know, like I fully like hyper focused on that shit, and like I was going to make sure no one ever got a fucking rock stuck in their knee ever again, you know? And it's the kind of thing that I feel like a lot of kids would pick up. They would be like, I need to do this thing, but I went for it, you know, like that was what I was doing. I only stopped doing it because I moved to a different school that had a different type of like tarmac down on the playground. Like I honestly think if I'd stayed at that school, I would have finished my fucking mission. I would have picked up all of those little rocks. That was what I was doing, and I was not going to stop until I'd done it, you know? So even though like I do think it's something a lot of kids would have done, the way in which I did it was where it was like very autistic. I also, this is a more common one, but it was one that made me feel a lot better, so I do want to bring it up, because I personified every item I owned. And like I see a lot of people talk about it in regards to like their teddy bears and their dolls and their like specific toys they really liked, but I am talking everything. If I dropped a VHS tape, I would apologise to it. When I broke a mirror, like a little handheld mirror at one point, and I sobbed for like a day and a half because I'd killed it. Like it absolutely fucked me up that like I had damaged this thing beyond repair. Like I felt so bad for it, and I couldn't explain myself, and my parents thought that I was just like crying to try to get a new one or whatever, but it was I had this like overbearing guilt of like I destroyed him, man, you know? And it was a fucking mirror. Like I dreaded when my mum would change my toothbrush because I would get so fucking attached to it. I'm like, that's my guy that cleans my teeth every night, he can't just be taken away from me, what the hell? And it's one of the things that I've really had to do better with as an adult, because I still like, I don't have a particularly stable living situation. I move reasonably frequently, and like I just can't be owning too much stuff. And like I've always been a little bit of a hoarder. I'm someone who will keep like the fucking wine topper from a good night out or whatever, you know, like I have lots of just like random little things, and I keep them and I will forever. But as a kid especially, it was a case of like someone buys you like an ugly teddy bear and you already have 50 teddy bears, but I can't get rid of him because he'll feel sad. I'll upset him. Like he has to stay with me, I have to look after him. He's my thing, and I'm like charged with the protection of this item. And I very much felt like all of them like needed me to extend my empathy to them and treat them with kindness and treat them well, you know? And there'd be the odd time that my parents would find me like absolutely like sobbing and having a full-on meltdown over like my bear fell out of bed and I didn't notice he's been on the floor all night on his own, and they'd be like, he's okay because he's not real. And I had this awareness of like the things around me aren't like, you know, real things. Like they are, but they're not actually people. They don't actually have feelings. They're not actually going to be upset if I drop them or forget about them or whatever else. But I so massively felt like that was the case. And even with my clothes, like sometimes I'd wear things that I didn't like or didn't find particularly comfortable, purely because I was like, well, I haven't worn it in ages. I haven't worn it in a really long time, so it's going to start feeling left out, and I can't let it feel left out. And I think some degree of it is like, I just felt very left out as a kid, so I didn't want other people to feel that way, but I didn't really know how to interact or do that for other people. So the things around me, I was very like, I can look after you, I can keep you safe, I can make sure you feel okay, even though the bastards didn't have any feelings. Now, this is one where I think I might sort of like divide the community a little bit, because I've seen people talk about how much they hated being like dirty and stuff as a kid, and I was the complete opposite. I loved being outside, I loved being in any sort of water, I loved being in mud, I loved touching mud, my thing was like one of the really good things that my mum did was she often just took us to the park and just sort of left us to wander, like not massively, you know, like she was still there keeping an eye, but we had quite a lot of like nature around us as a kid, and she was very like, it's the woods, have fun. And I loved just getting into fucking everything. I wanted to touch every leaf and every flower. If something looked spiky, I wanted to touch it and see how far I could go before it was spiky. And it meant that like a lot of the time as a kid, I would get home from like wherever I'd been just coated in mud. And it's not that like I particularly enjoyed that sensory experience. Like I would quite often get home and just strip and be like, I'm not showering. I don't want the sensory experience of cleaning myself. I just didn't want to feel the wet, muddy clothes. Now that it's just my body covered in mud, that's fine. And like my older brother's also autistic, and he was the type that like would sort of walk around and have a little look at things. And if mud got on his hands, he would freak the fuck out. And I was just the complete opposite. I was just, my entire body could be slathered in mud, and I'm like, oh, I want to touch the snail. Like, I'm not paying attention to that. I don't care about that. I needed to like look at the snail, you know? And especially like I remember one point as a kid, I was out with some friends and we found this like really steep hill that was like just a barrier balayage, is that the word? It was just like a fucking torrent of mud. Like, it had been raining recently. It was just this really, really steep hill that was just completely, like, I don't think there were any grass or anything on it at the best of times. So after all this rain, there definitely wasn't. And everyone was like daring each other to slide down it. I didn't need to be dared. I was straight up there and like, yes. And that was just what I was like as a kid. And I think to a point, if I didn't have to like do my own laundry and like all of everything that comes with it, you know, like as a kid I would get home, strip my clothes off, and my mum would spend like 10-15 minutes talking me down to get into the shower. I'd have a shower, I'd come out, everything's clean, my clothes are gone, you know, it was fab. Coming back as an adult, I'd have to like mop up after myself, everything. It'd be a fucking nightmare, wouldn't it? Like, I don't want to do it as a grown up for the after effects, but as a kid you just do it and then it gets sorted for you and you're like, awesome. But I always really enjoyed that. I really loved that. And that, I feel like from my experience with my brother and just like talking to other autistic people, it's an experience that a lot of people wouldn't like. But it's the type of thing where like, if I had golden syrup on my pancakes, I would be washing my hands like 4 or 5 times between eating the food because my hands had gotten sticky and I could not ever deal with sticky hands. Sticky hands are the worst thing in the whole entire world as far as I'm concerned. Being covered head to toe in mud's fine. A big one that I had the connection with while I was watching TikTok the other day, I was the world's worst dancer as a kid. And you might not think it matters, but I was also like quite a fat little kid and my parents were like very upset by that and body shamed me a lot and were quite mean in general. So they put me into a whole bunch of dance classes because they were like, it's exercise and you'll enjoy it. I fucking hated it. Like, that's the thing is like, being a fat kid and growing up as a fat person, I was so often shamed for not enjoying exercise and treated as though like I just couldn't be bothered to move. When it was like, no, I'm going into this dance class, everyone else is picking everything up 10,000 times faster than I am, and then everyone's acting like I'm an idiot or like I'm just not trying hard enough or like I'm just too fat to do it well, when I literally just cannot figure out what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I've never been as frustrated in my life as I have been in dance classes, and it riles me because when I was like maybe 14, 15, I actually ended up at a dance class that had a really incredible teacher. Like, she was one of the best dancers I've ever seen in my fucking life, just in general. And then she was just so patient and she would explain things in different ways and walk you through it as much as you needed to. Like, she was an incredible dance teacher to have. And I still couldn't fucking do it, you know? Like, I would stay back after lessons and she would take me through these foot movements as slowly as humanly possible. And it would still be a case of like, I'd go through it and I'd watch it and I'd watch it and I'd watch it. And we'd had already a whole hour's lesson just doing this fucking thing. And I still wouldn't be able to just put my feet in the right fucking place. Or I'd manage to put my feet in the right fucking place and she'd be like, you forgot about your arms. So on the next go round, I'd be like, yeah, got those arms in place. And she'd be like, weren't where they were meant to be, were they? And I'd be like, no, they fucking weren't! And I just could not for the life of me process what my body was supposed to do, make my body actually do it, and remember what was coming next. I could not do it, and I despised it. And I've mentioned in videos before, like, I do think I have like some level of dyspraxia, and I often just like would trip over my own feet. I often do trip over my own feet, but especially obviously in dance classes where they're telling you to like cross your legs and do a jump and do this. I was on my ass more often than I was doing a fucking dance, to be honest with you. And I couldn't do it. Everyone acted like it was just because I was fat, and I'm sorry, it weren't. It was because I'm autistic. Because I still can't learn a fucking dance, and I'm skinny now. Physically, I should be able to do it, but I can't. We'd spend months on this stuff, and by the time it came around to performances, I feel like I'd sort of grasped it enough to kind of blend in, but I never got it, you know? Like, I wasn't good, and it really upset me for a really long time. And it's one of the things where the older I've gotten and the more I've been like, yo, I think that's just the tism playing it. I think it's that I'm autistic and my brain just cannot process that shit and then put it into my body. Like, it's just not happening. I can't do it. My wiring ain't like that. I want my final one to be a really brief one because it's sort of more of like a funny observation than like an actual point to the video. But I was one of those kids, I feel like a lot of you guys probably were as well, especially the girlies, or people who were raised as girls and people who are AFAB, blah, blah, blah. But my mum would get me ready for school as a kid, and she scraped my hair back into these high ponies that were like absolutely perfectly smooth, and she'd make sure my tie was done up properly, and all my buttons were buttoned properly, and my cardigan's on properly, and my socks are pulled up, everything. Like, as I walked into that school, I looked like a perfect pupil. And when I came out, like, my hair's like down over here, so somewhere. The bobble's like half out. It's an absolute pigsty. It's just flying everywhere. My cardigan's got a hole in it. My socks have fallen down. Like it would, like my shirt's stained. My skirt's got a tear in it. Like I just, every single day of my life, I came out of school like absolutely fucked. And I never had a clue how it fucking happened. Like, I'd have the odd day where I'd be like, I did PE and that's why my hair's messed up. I had this weird fight with a friend and that's why this happened. But 99% of the time, I would come out of school and my mum would be like, what's happened to you? And I'd be like, nothing. Everything's fine. And then I'd like bundle home and look in the mirror and be like, oh, fucking hell. And like, I don't personally have friends that like have their own children for the most part at the minute, but I've got friends that have like nieces and nephews and just like children that they know, and I've had them show me these pictures of like, here's how my niece looks going into school and here's how she looks afterwards, and I'm like, yeah, I see her, I get her, I understand, that is the vibe. So yeah, I'm so glad that this is more of like a happy and upbeat video. I am feeling a bit more myself again. It's been a weird little time, and I am right about to move again, so I don't know if I'm gonna have another weird little time, but I am feeling a lot better and feeling a lot more myself, and I feel like it's probably coming through a bit in videos, because editing my last couple of videos, not the Drop Dead Fred one, but some of the other ones, I've been very like, oh, like the way I'm perceiving myself isn't 10 out of 10. Like bitch seems a bit depressed, you know? And I guess in a way I have been, but it's mostly just burnout as always, and just having to like deal with everything that happens in life. I don't know why I'm getting deep at the end of this video, but there we go. That was the video. As always, I would love to hear anything that this prompts for you and your thoughts, anything that you did that was similar, anything that you did that was like the complete opposite end of the spectrum is always interesting. I like hearing what other people do and did and get up to and whatever else, so if you wanted to comment, that'd be lovely. If you wanted to also like the video and subscribe, they're both things that just like generally help out my channel, I believe. I still have a very limited understanding of how algorithms or the internet in general works, but like the people that want to are clearly finding my videos. You guys are here, so it's doing what it's meant to. I also post fairly regularly over on TikTok if you wanted to follow me there, and a little more sporadically over on Instagram, but they'll be linked down below, and I will also link my Patreon if you would like to pay me monthly to join me over there and receive early uploads is the main thing, and you also get to be on the end screen that you're gonna see here in a minute. And I'm also, everything's after I've moved at the minute, which is happening on Monday. So once that's done, I am intending to like just really delve into things, be a bit more part of the community and get a lot more done, and just, I'm starting to feel good and feel like myself again and feel ready to actually do things. So I'm hoping that moving doesn't eat us up all of that energy and I actually do them, you know? We'll see. Whoever you are and wherever you are. Oh wait, no, I also have a Ko-fi and they'll both be linked down below, but as always, there's no pressure. You don't have to pay me. The whole point of this content is that it's free and I want it to be. So you don't have to. It's all good. Whoever you are and wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.